Thank you very much. So it's always difficult right after lunch, right? So we'll try to keep everybody from falling asleep. So I think yesterday we had two groups, right? There was one on, whether or not we're going to survive the next 5 years or not, right? And I was on I'm sure we're going to. And the reason is because of this panel, right? Because I believe that there are ways that you can future-proof your operations to be able to support no matter what it is that's going to change over the next 5 years, right? So I think the whole thing about 5 years is interesting because we've pretty much given up on 5-year planning, and because you just can't see that far, right? So the whole point is to be able to really react quickly, be able to make sure that you don't strand a bunch of investment, that you are investing in ways that will support your flexibility going forward in the future. So this panel is going to give some different ideas about that, and I'll ask a couple of questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience as a whole, because I think we have some interesting perspectives here. So I'm going to have each of the panelists, starting with George, introduce themselves, a little bit about what their focus is. So.
Thank you. We will try. We'll try to respond to your challenge. My name is George. I'm from Portugal. I do run a shared service for 80 banks, 80 brick-and-mortar banks, and one digital bank. We call it Crédito Agrícola, and we have 700 branches, 2 million clients. We managed 20 billion euros in the management, so not so big a bank, but able to do nice things and challenge the market.
I'm Hicham Cherifi. I work in BPCE. BPCE is a French bank, a French group, in fact. We are 15,000 in IT. We have several billion of euro in terms of budget. And I'm in charge of the strategy, the governance, and the finance of IT.
I'm David De Prado. I work at BBVA, Spanish bank with presence in 13 countries, especially in America. And I'm a designer here. I lead the design team for the enterprise transformation unit, and also globally a discipline of design that is called service design, which focuses on creating services or designing services.
So George, one of the areas that gets a lot of controversy in banking is around the use of cloud. And every time I say cloud, I get a lot of different reactions from bankers, so from CIOs in banks. And some of them are like, oh yeah, we're already doing cloud, right? And it turns out that they're doing virtualization, but they don't really have any automation, so they're not really doing cloud. Others are, oh, I can't do cloud. The regulator won't let me do cloud. And that's like, well, okay, that's public cloud, right? But the concept of cloud around being able to flexibly assign resources to take advantage of the available resources with whatever workloads you happen to happen now, and whether or not that's in your own data center as a private cloud, whether it's in a public cloud, whether it's a hybrid, right? So one of the examples that's not finance is Huawei, as I mentioned before, now when I talk to CIOs, they're like, oh yeah, you guys do phones, right? So one of the things, Huawei sells a lot of phones online, and one of the common sales techniques in China and some other places is what's called flash sales, where you send out a bunch of messages on WeChat or WhatsApp or SMS, and you say, the first 10,000 people that come to our website at 11:04 tomorrow can buy this product for a deep discount, right? So as you can imagine, at 11:03, the traffic goes right through the roof. And so Huawei doesn't want to have in our data center all of the servers necessary to do that. So we run that front end stuff that's going to handle that initial load in public clouds. In China, Huawei actually runs a public cloud. We use ours. In Europe, we use Amazon Web Services. So and we have some banking customers that while the regulator doesn't allow them to put any customer identifiable information, store it in a public cloud, they do allow the use of the public cloud for a front end, so you can have a hybrid cloud. So the question to George is that, to what extent do you think that cloud kinds of architectures are important to be able to future-proof what you think are going to be the future directions of banking?
I think that cloud is one of the most important things for the future of banking, and I'm just saying this regarding automation. So cloud ops, if you want, kind of framework to work with. Provisioning of hardware and resources to globally test very, very rapidly anything. So in this kind of a world that you are always testing new things, and all of this, cloud is very, very useful. Again, for trying to capacity planning or capacity management, if you want. Okay, again, and first of all, I think that the first question that you have to have with cloud. And we have it in Portugal, so you have to figure out what's the best cloud provider, okay? You have cloud providers, the biggest ones that compete with you, okay? Amazon competes with the bank, okay? Google competes with the bank, mainly one in the payment services, and the other one competes in other. Microsoft doesn't compete with and I'm talking just about these three ones, okay? There are others, of course. We choose Microsoft, and we use Microsoft. So anything new that we do, we choose First Cloud, okay, because there's new services that are not available on-prem, okay? So we have Databricks, we have all of these new things, microservices, App Fabric, MongoDB, etc. And we choose this for anything new that we do, okay? On-prem, what are we doing? So we are on a virtualization, if you want, kind of framework. And we are now, this year, trying to go to infrastructure as a code, still on virtualization, okay, still on this kind of a world. But again, okay, what do we want? The same kind of approach to that cloud has, okay? So automation, quick provisioning, capacity planning, so all of CI/CD. So all of these new kinds of working with and giving, if you want, hardware to all the workloads, that's what we think that is one of the most important things that banks can grow and can compete with big techs along the way.
And Isham, you have both IT and strategy kinds of responsibilities, right? You have two different hats that you switch back and forth. And that one of the big questions and decisions around strategy is, to what extent do you adopt like a mobile-first part of a strategy, and to what extent you think that will help to future-proof your future going forward for the banking operations?
Yes, it was a good question, because 2 years ago we are looking for, do we go to the mobile, to the cloud, to the API, and so on. We came back to the fundamentals in a bank. We are banker after all. I mean, what do a banker when he wants to transform the bank? He has to put a business plan about around 2 KPI. First KPI is the cost to acquire clients. What is the cost? In the traditional bank is like that. And the lifetime value of a customer, I mean all the cash flow, marginal revenue that we will have from a customer is like that. When you see a digital bank, today the cost to acquire client is here. It's not very expensive, but the lifetime value is also here. What kind of strategy will I do? Either to be a digital bank, but to reduce the ratio? It's not normal. It's not a common sense. Then what we have to do is to capitalize on the technology in order to be able to reduce the cost to acquire clients, like they do in digital banking, but to keep the same level of lifetime value of customer. This is the big challenge. And the mobile, the cloud, is the same. Can we keep the same level of lifetime value? Yes, because by the mobile, we have better relationship with the customer. I mean, better relationship with the customer, not people in the mobile. People that will not use mobile, because we will ask them to go to the branch to get better service and to spend less time to people who are using their mobile in a safe, care way. or people who like to go to mobile. This is the way I think that the strategy. We call that the phygital, physical and digital. Use the branch and leverage digital within the branch. Not to be a digital bank, but to use digital as the first lever in the bank, inside.
And David, excuse me, David, you have a kind of a different perspective because you're really focused around customer journey, right? So to what extent do you think that having a customer-centric focus, a customer journey focus is important to support the future activities that are not knowable right now?
Well, I think it's critical, right? I mean, what is behind customer journey from my point of view? The needs of the customer. The needs of the customer, but also the needs of the employee. Because the employees and the physical branch will play a role in the future for sure, right? And in all the organizations, there is a lot of talking about customer centricity and customer journeys. And I think here there have been a lot of interventions in that sense. But I think it's very important to have the customer and the employee in the process of creation of new products. So we can reduce uncertainty, and we can, in a context where our customers expect magic from us, we can deliver meaningful experiences. And more importantly, I think these kind of approaches can help us not only to know what to do, but specifically what not to do, which I think it's key in the situation that banks are living.
I think that's interesting because I was having a conversation with somebody earlier this morning, and they made the very good observation that after you've had an experience, you don't really remember the details of the experience, but you remember the feeling, right? And so if you have a bad experience, you may not remember why it was bad, but you have this long feeling it was bad, right? And that's where the customer touch point, where the whole customer centric, if you've focused around that person, it's more likely that they'll have an experience that they think fondly on, even though they don't remember the details of what exactly that was.
Yeah. So. And I think we have a lot of resources in terms of technology to really change how we interact with our users. And I'm not talking about how nice it is, the app, right? It's what is the value that we are delivering to them. I think we are far away from, in a way, addressing the promises that in the digital age we are making, even to ourselves as organizations, right?
Yeah. So I recently opened a new banking account in China, and it was because I got a permanent residence card. And in China, it's called a Shenfenzhen, which is, and there's two versions, one for a Chinese citizen and one for someone who's been given the permanent residence. And the encoded in this card, in the RFID chip that's in the card, is the full name. Well, for a foreigner, they put my last name, Raffensperger, and then they put a comma, and then they put my Ronald, and when I opened the bank account, they automatically scanned that card, right, and it created the bank account. I could not send any money into that account, and it took a week for them to figure out that their system doesn't, the Union Bank transfer credit transfer facility doesn't allow commas. But their input software didn't check for that, right? And they had to go through all sorts of hoops and delete all my accounts and start over again, and then manually, after the card was read in with the comma, delete the comma, right? So there are many ways to trip up And so it took me 3 visits to the branch and probably 3 hours of my time. I came away with not a particularly good feeling. Right? So, do we have any questions from the floor? Yeah, if we could get a mic over to the far side there.
Yeah, because you trigger me with the same thing, because I was wondering, if you look at customer satisfaction, most of the time you look at the NPS or the Net Promoter Score, or, and that's more your story, the amount of effort it took to take care of things. I was wondering, are there any research or any numbers you're familiar with your own bank and connected to the strategy you choose?
Yes. You mean the NPS, the Net Promoting Score? Yes. Yes. It's totally connected with the strategy. I mean, we are very focused on the client. This is a strategy, either you are digital or not, whatever you do today is around the client. Now, the thing which is very important is when you see the balance sheet of a bank, the balance sheet of a bank is composed 99% of mortgage, credit, and so on. Okay? When you see profitable client in Europe, there's only 25-30% following Eurostat that are profitable in a bank. And these guys or women are more than 60, 70 years old. This is the most profitable people in a bank today in Europe. When you see that, what is the first strategy? It's not only NPS, it's inheritance. How to help these people to manage inheritance. Why it's very important and why customer experience is very important in this area. Because usually their son, their grandson are not in my bank. I want them in my bank because when my customer will die, I want to keep them. That's why the customer experience is the first business plan of a customer experience I know. Show me another one that can show that we can keep money in the bank. And for the mortgage, it's very important. The mortgage is not the NPS the most important in mortgage. The most important for mortgage credit is the margin, interest rate. When you go to a bank, you are not going to a bank to take a credit because they are smiling. I'm not going to go to a bank because they have the best customer experience. It's because you have the lowest interest rate. And to have the lowest interest rate, you need to review all the process and to use digital in order to be able to reduce the cost of the bank.
But the NPS is more than happy faces. It's the whole package of maybe the mortgage rate, or it's the how many effort it took you to get that mortgage. But thanks for the answer. Yeah.
Now we manage NPS every month. Every month we manage because we ask our customer what they think about. But more in internet, because we use a lot of self-care. On internet, it's like the certainty, as you said just before. And we want to know if we are considered as a good bank in terms of digital or not. Because we decided to not have a subsidiary dedicated to digital. We are digital inside, which is why it is very important for us.
But also related to that, I think it's a classic example, and I think most of you guys, and if not all, are aware of this. But getting a mortgage is not buying a house, right? So can we help and make money out of it in that process, more than just saying yes to a mortgage? There are a lot of needs involved in that process. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of thinking about the future for our customers. Are we there? I don't think so, right? But we should explore more that kind of opportunities. That is the whole journey, right, of buying a house.
Your question, please.
Hicham, thank you for this. I just wanted to comment because looking at, from my perspective, when you say about strategy and where you want to go, I wouldn't fully agree with the fact what you said, the pricing. Because I think that actually the strategy is to decide, do you want to compete on prices or on a level of service or on a quality of product? It's difficult for sure to do all three of them. If you do it just pure on pricing, that's one part of the story. But on my side, I believe that especially big banks like you are, should more focus probably on giving good quality of service and good products than competing with the prices.
I agree with you. You know why? Because all depends on your position in the market. We have a half of France as a customer. I have 32 million customers in France. My position is to maintain my market share. I mean, it's not to be more aggressive, to get more. It's to maintain my market share. I agree with you, but in my position, I will stay with my strategy. Because it's not the same.
Still, mortgage is a long-term product, okay? So, again, pricing. I think I agree with David when he says that all the journey has to be, it's not about buying a house, it's buying a way of life, it's buying something, okay, different. So that kind, till you have the money on your account and have the key, that could be a very good experience that the bank could give you, okay, so that you can faster have your home and trying to figure out. But interest rate is the next stage, okay? So if you just move a little bit about interest rate, it might capture the client if you have a similar experience, because nowadays you can have a good experience with a mortgage if you just partner with some kind of immobiliary, and they give you a real estate, they give you that kind of experience, and you can run it along with the bank to the process of having just your first key, the key. So interest rate for me in the long-term product might be one of the most useful things that you can sell to the client in this kind of product. Of course, it's different for other products. Sorry?
I think you're prepared to suffer for the mortgage because it's a critical, and it will be one point in time. So you're prepared to suffer to get a good pricing. So, like you've said earlier, you would remember that experience, even if it's a bad experience, but you're prepared to accept it to have the good rate. For a daily banking, it's completely different because your level of tolerance will reach a point. If you get deception several times, you will just give up the relationship. But the mortgage is once, and you can accept to have a bad experience if you get the best interest rate because it's like for 20 years and the end result is a significant amount.
Yeah, you have to put in place another thing that banks must address, okay, is dynamic pricing. And if you think of the mortgage as 20 years relationship with the bank, okay, you can see how important it is servicing around other services of the bank regarding dynamic pricing. So it's when you do the mortgage that you determine what kind of pricing catalog that you as a client has, okay? It comes with the vinculation, it comes with what kind of products do I have, it's a credit card, it's not a credit card, and all of that. So it comes with your wallet share in behind. So mortgage is the best product for this kind of dynamic price. So you have to see mortgage again, okay? And this is very important because you will try to remind the client all the time that you change the price because he's just give an option for the other credit card. A credit card is not a bank thing. So, or you just choose another option for other product in other bank. And the kind of pricing that we made with him the first time that he did the mortgage might have suffered some oscillation because of this. This dynamic pricing will be very determined, and the mortgage product will be also determined for that kind of relationship based on servicing.
Okay, we have no.
Yeah, thank you. One question, could you share with us a little bit your thinking as part of your strategy around digital programmable currency? I'm asking both because there are private initiatives with stablecoins out there claiming to bank the underbanked, and also the customer demand for machine-to-machine payments, for example, in the future may pick up on solutions that programmable currency could offer. Could you share a little bit your perspective on that?
You. Well, I think stable coins or crypto, it will be, I was saying that in the payments table already, it will be one of the major challenges that the banks, I think the biggest challenge for the banks will be those kind of coins. Because what we do is we live with the enforced currency that the context gives us, okay? So that's one of the things. And when you change that to crypto and to machine and all of this, okay, you will be presented with a challenge that you never imagined, okay? So stablecoin, I think that this will be the kind of leverage that banks needs to go after, that's my opinion, okay? To go after big techs, okay? I don't see that the central banks, so the system will be, again, around central banks, okay? I don't see that will change. It's my opinion for now, okay? That will change. We have to, there are economic policies that are doing around central banks and how they inject money on the market or not, okay? So this is the paradigm of economy. So what I think is that this is the opportunity to, and I was saying that before, to banks regain again the relevance that they have to do in the market, and they have to change a lot of their systems to try to be able to talk machine to machine. That will be the kind of determined business future that goes along with the banks, and I think that will separate big techs from big banks, and big banks go even bigger. Okay, that's my opinion for the stable coins and all the cryptography. I don't know if I responded to you.
In terms of strategy as a whole, I remember I'm the head of strategy since 2015. When I had to present the first strategic plan, IT strategic plan, it was very, very complicated. You know why? Because in a bank, in a French bank, usually there are more administrators and managers and visionaries. And to be able to have a real IT strategic plan, either you go to cloud, API, and so on, but without visionary, in fact, only picking things, technology in the market. The first thing we did at the beginning is first change the mindset. We, IT, built up this business strategy. It was in 2016. I presented it to the president of the bank, of course, with the business, but I lead at this time because they don't know how to manage the business. In 2016, I don't know if you remember, it was the beginning, in fact, in the market of all this stuff. And the first thing to do is to change the mindset. This is a big challenge. The second thing is that, okay, if you are in front of the board of the bank, you need to present a real business plan. I mean, you can't afford to say, well, I need budget for that, for that, for that. You need to be visionary. What is the branch of the tomorrow of 2020? What is the branch 2025? Even if it's not true, but we need a direction. They are expecting direction. This is the second issue, because when you think like that, we need two things. The first thing is business plan, complicated in digital. And the second thing is even if you want to invest, how is the market? That's why 6 months ago, I presented here the technology benchmark. And I discovered that the cloud is not mature in the market. No one uses the cloud. Of course, you have some application in the cloud, but who is using core banking system in the cloud today? API, yes. Intelligence artificial, no. We use, but to control, not to make business, to have a better issue. Then we mixed both, I mean, visionary and maturity of the market. And we decided to build up the strategy. We decided that we are going to use the customer experience because we know that inheritance, for instance. We decided to go to robot because I have 30% of people in my bank have more than 56 years old. This means that if you see the pyramid age and the robot, it's very good today to get the maturity in the next 5 years. They will be retired at 62 in France. They won the unions. And we are going to implement the robot in the same time that people were leaving the company. This is a kind of strategy. But you don't have to be technical in your mind. You have to be more bankers.
Okay, are we out of time? I'm not sure who's keeping track. No, we're okay? Okay. Other questions? Okay, so then I have another one for George around the APIs. So we've had some spirited discussions in various venues around Open API. For the Europeans, Open API, many banks are looking at as an imposition, right? Whereas in other places like Singapore and where the regulator looks at it and the banks look at open APIs as a differentiator, right? A way to broaden their business. I think it's, that if you're familiar with the term long tail, right? There's a lot of revenue under the giving mortgages, right? There's a huge amount of profit there, right? But there's an awful lot of small things that you can make a little bit of profit that, when you add it all up, is very substantial, maybe even bigger than the big part of the curve. So, George, do you think that the open APIs are a danger, or do you think it's an opportunity as far as future-proofing?
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you an IT perspective, okay? Of course, on the business perspectives, it's also important, but an IT perspective. So from IT, we have a standardized interface, okay? So it has good, but also for us, and we are doing that with some partners, it's a new deliverable model, okay, for us, okay? So if you put up a kind of sufficient on the sell side APIs that you bring to your partners or to the business, okay, you can grow a new deliverable model, okay? You don't have to get all the requirements for doing, imagine, front end, the areas of business that relies on your back end at the end, but it's another way of doing business or another business model, whatever. You can do that with trying to extend your capacities of development and all of this, and you can bring this new delivery model. This is on the IT side, okay? We just proved that. We put our APIs running through the last 3 years, sorry, and we implemented 3 new business models. We implemented a digital banking, that's how we call it, okay? It's not full digital banking, okay, but we've implemented with a team that it's around somewhere in Europe that gathers all the competencies and improve themselves to make some kind of Revolut competitor, okay, at least for our market in Portugal. We again we embraced the new acquiring model for Portugal, because every bank in Portugal is doing a new acquiring. How can we leverage a bit of the retail SME when we just give this to the business guys? We're not involved, and we have the APIs, we have the product APIs open up for whatever project that is. So we're talking about deliverable models, okay? So that could extend our in terms of IT, and that could extend. In terms of business, okay, so we're talking about connected bank, okay? I was talking about that later with the mortgage cycle, that this can, the full experience for the client can be done with several partners, okay? The guy that is responsible for the real estate, the guy that is responsible for the clearing of the operation, the guy who is responsible for the notary, for certification of the documents. Why does this have to be done with a bank, okay? The bank, it just has the balance sheet, has the money to lend the money, but he could partner, okay, an ecosystem, okay, that could bring a nice value to the client, okay? So I think that's one of the opportunities for open APIs, and of course, these guys has a lot of new ideas, so this is a matter for everyone. I'm just going to stop, okay, because
you have a question?
A lot of things to be said.
We're talking about API and so on, but we're talking business as well. How do you see monetization of this new open banking world?
Imagine again the ecosystem for the mortgage service to the client, okay? Imagine that again, okay? So it depends on the empowerment as the bank has in this ecosystem, okay? Who needs who, okay? And what kind of, it might be interesting in this case to discuss if the interest rate is the most important thing or not, okay? First of all, because in an ecosystem like this, the guy with real estate has the experience of the house, okay? He does the pictures, he puts the house, the decoration so that can be attractive and all of this, okay? So each one has their own responsibility, okay? The guy from the bank has the responsibility. He has to have money, he has to have trust, he has to know the client, he has to have the best interest rate, okay? That's why interest rate is one of the most important things for the mortgage cycle. So if you have this, okay, and if the transaction starts at the real estate, you can monetize that operation with the real estate, okay? It depends, okay? If the real estate is a kind of a credit intermediator, okay, then you will gain in another operation. So monetization for banking, still in Portugal, the central bank still says, okay, you deal with the money, so everything you lend the money, you have interest rate. No monetization for data, okay? Data is not allowed in banking, in retail banking at least, but the central bank, for example, for the ANA credit, it does monetization, because if you want online records for ANA credit, it charges something. If you want it on batch, it doesn't charge you. So still, I think we have a lot of information of clients for those kind of retail, like real estate and other kind of retail, and this could help these retailers go a little bit forward, and I think banks could help him. That's my opinion. I don't know.
We're trying to monetize data, you know, by selling some data in order for the scoring, for instance. When you are a new bank, digital bank, you want to get better scoring, we sell this data through one of our subsidiaries, Fidor. But it's limited. I mean, today, we don't have the business model for that.
Any other questions? So the last thing is, and this got talked a bit about last night by Tim Haynes, is around the upskilling and the reskilling and that sort of thing. So if we're going to future-proof our operations for banking, to what extent do we need to focus around our people, being able to reskill them, upskill them, that sort of thing in order to be successful? So maybe David, comments?
Well, I think we are facing very, very complex problems, right? The kind of problems or challenges that do not have just one solution, which may sound, contradictory in terms of the education that we received, right? To have always the right answer. I think that to face those challenges, we need to work in a multidisciplinary environment where lines blur, right? In the past, and I have heard during these days, right, the model of working like business said to IT what has to be done, and then probably enters design or data or legal with the final solution in the respective realms. But I think we are losing an opportunity there. If we don't work together to tackle those challenges, I think we are going to be far, far away of what we can do exactly. So blurring those lines can mean reskilling or upskilling people, right? But for me, it's more important the process that we are working on, and to recognize that neither business nor IT, not to mention legal or design, have the right answer. But all together we'll manage to have something that probably could be future-proof, or, I prefer the idea that we are building the future instead of having a set up future for us in 10 years or 15 years.
Yeah. Hisham, any comments?
Well, I think that we need to work a lot within the team. I mean, we have 50% of external, 50% of internal, 60 depending on the year. And the thing is that if you want to transform the bank, if you want to go to digital. Either you employ people that are experts in the market as external, or you discuss with our internal people saying, okay, we are going there, would you like to be on board? You have to manage. And they are very, very happy. Either people that have 60-year-olds are very happy to work on that. And I think the willingness is one of the most important thing if you want to change, to transform.
Okay. So I think we've come to the end of our time. I think that if I try to summarize this, if we want to be able to future-proof, a big piece of it is around having the right kind of infrastructure, something that can automatically respond, that can be very quickly changed, that sort of thing. But it's not just about that infrastructure. It's equally as important to be focused around the customer experience, because that's what's going to support you through the transitions that you're going to go through, is that you have built that solid base of good customer experiences, so that they're willing to go through this life cycle, these changes with you, and it's very. They need to feel comfortable. They need to feel supported, and that sort of thing. And then that in order to make this transition, that you're going to have your people all working together towards that end. And about teamwork, Tim Haynes talked last night about leadership, right? Which is really, I think, where all of you come in. So it's not just about technology, it's about making sure that the customers are coming with you on this journey, and that also so are your people. Thank you very much for the panel, and please join me in thanking the panel for their input.